So today's video is going to be about why Gen Z are always offended. And my hot take is that they lack humility. I believe that it kind of comes back to the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's contradictory in that the less you know, the more you think you know. And the more you know, the more you realize how little you actually know. And so I feel like that's kind of what our younger generation, Gen Z, we suffer from. In actuality, we don't really know much. And the people who do know more, they are a little bit more humble in recognizing that there is so much that they do not know, and that it is better to actually listen to other people and recognize that everyone that they meet in their life, no matter what they think of them, maybe they don't really like them for whatever reason, has something to teach. Most people believe that what they think in the current moment is more solid and core to who they are than it actually is. What they then realize is that not even a couple of days or a week is that they might end up changing their opinion on things completely. But I feel like maybe most people don't self-reflect in that sort of way to realize how wish-washy our thoughts are. You're constantly updating what you think and feel. And I think that's important because, at the end of the day, the world is so complicated. It's so complex. Everyone has been young at some point in time of their lives. So I'm sure our parents were also quite egotistical and believe that their worldviews in the current moment is their be-all and end-all as well. But I think it's exasperated, especially in our digital age of, I guess, quick, almost fast food information. Instead of getting information from, I guess, books or things that have been carefully crafted over years, instead we're getting, a lot of our information from Instagram Reels, TikToks, even YouTube videos to an extent that only takes a couple of hours, maybe a couple of days to make, and we're not realizing the subconscious effect that it has on us. Like these stuff that we're consuming, it's, I guess, kind of entering our mind and our, altering our belief system more than we realize. And without like that self-reflection, that introspection, having that time in the day to not be so distracted, we're not able to kind of carefully filter and understand where our thoughts sit within it. Maybe you should look at how long did it take for this person to make? Because we should be consuming content that has taken a significant amount of time to make, because that's how it's been carefully done. But most of our information actually just comes from, social media, which only really takes a couple of hours to make. Cal Newport's book, Deep Work, kind of what he says about creating quality work is that it requires a lot of time. It requires a lot of deep, focused work that takes a long time to create. These books by these great authors, it's taken years of this author's life to create, and you can really see their heart and soul within it, which I feel like it is obviously lacking when it comes to quick social media content or like even news articles, where I feel like nowadays we should be more aware that a lot of news platforms, they all have like an agenda to them to alter a specific demographic's way of thinking, whether it's, for political or social reasons. And so I think noticing that and then noticing your own biases as well will kind of help us not be so polarizing in our views. Because obviously, like these news articles, clearly they have been crafted in such a way to elicit a specific emotion from you. Like it's been done in a specific way to create fear mongering or create hatred towards a specific other group. We should know this by now. Like we should know that these things have been made to make us feel this way. And so, like it's okay, I guess, to consume these things, but please take it with a grain of salt and make sure that you cross-reference it with other pieces of books or literature or media that clearly have taken a lot more time to curate, something with a lot more intentionality behind it. Don't just kind of be pushed and pulled every which way. It's really cool in this day and age to kind of be really polarizing or show that you really believe in something wholeheartedly, almost like it's what your identity is. And I think that's part of it, right? It's kind of like identifying so much to one social or political view because it makes you feel like you belong in some sort of way, but then it creates this polarizing effect of like this sports team effect where it's like, I go for the Lakers, I go for the Celtics, or whatever it is, and it's just like, I hate you, and it's like, I don't really know why I hate you. I gotta hate you because I'm a part of this group and not that group. Not putting yourself into these categories is better, like realizing that you're your own individual that is able to form your own opinions, and you don't necessarily belong to any specific group. I believe is way more healthier. To me, what comes to my mind is something that Bruce Lee said. Before Bruce Lee, every martial arts was very individualistic. You either came from karate, or you came from kung fu, or you came from boxing, or you came from jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai or whatever it is, and you stuck to that. And it was seen as almost like a betrayal if you kind of cross-contaminated and did a mix of things. Like no one really kind of ever thought to do that before.
You see, actually, I do not teach, karate because I do not believe in styles anymore. I mean, I do not believe that there is such thing as like Chinese way of fighting or the Japanese way of fighting or whatever way of fighting, because styles tends to not only separate men, because they have their own doctrines, and then the doctrine became the gospel truth, that you cannot change, Style is a crystallization, I mean, that way it's a process of continuing growth.
Realizing that there is something to be learned from all aspects of life, from all walks of life, from all people out there. And not attaching yourself so deeply to one thing, and realizing that you are more fluid as a human being. Take what is useful and discard what is not. And I guess one other reason that I believe why Gen Z are always offended is that we think ourselves as pure. We look at the world as very black and white, as good and evil. And this is something that I actually quite like about someone who is a bit more polarizing in today's media, Jordan Peterson. Something that he says, and I believe he kind of got from Carl Jung, is this idea of a shadow side. The idea that there is a monster that exists inside of all of us is a very important point of view, because a lot of us live in this kind of perspective, obviously, that we're kind of the main characters of the world. We always believe that we're the ones doing the right thing. This comes back to the whole idea of Sonder, which is like realizing that every single person out there is a main character in their own lives, living a very complicated life. So there's that makes you more empathetic, but also realizing that no one does things thinking that they're doing a bad thing. Like everyone thinks that they're doing something good. I guess recognizing that there is this kind of darker side to you, this more what you would deem as like a monster inside of you, is important. Most of us don't sit there long enough to really think about it. And I think most people won't really relate to this because they're kind of going to take it as face value and then kind of think about it for like 2 seconds and be like, nah, he's wrong. But like really actually sit with it. Like we are all the same, like we cut from the same cloth. This idea of segregating people into good and bad, Gryffindors and Slytherins and stuff like that, it's so weird, like we are cut from the same cloth. So really sit with yourself and realize that you are capable of the worst things in the world as well. And there's no point looking at, I guess, criminals or people who would deem as morally reprehensible as people who are like so separate from us that we can't recognize within ourselves. It's kind of like what the Joker says in The Dark Knight, where he kind of criticizes society for kind of acting or believing that they're more pure and civilized than they are. And I think there is truth to that. Like we do look at ourselves with a very narrow mindset. Give people a break, is what I'm trying to say. Don't judge people with such a harsh lens, because understand that you very well could be that monster as well. So I think once you realize that, you won't necessarily lash out so reactively and emotionally to things that we see on the news. Then we kind of show that we actually empathize. That's the most important quality, I feel like. Parts of you exist in other people, and parts of other people exist in you as well. And that will kind of make you judge the world less harshly and less, I guess, emotionally. The point of the video is that you can be more nuanced, and there doesn't have to be a category or a group or a name to identify who you are. And I think that will kind of create a world where we're not so segregated into people who are this category or that category. It's just, we're all quite fluid and we are all quite adaptable. And the more we stop segregating ourselves into specific categories, I believe the less offended we will become as a generation.
You still think of yourself Chinese, or do you ever think of yourself as North American?
You know what I want to think of myself? As a human being. Under the sky, under the heaven, man, there is but one family.